Hello, I am Jake Collins, and this is the first in a short series of commentaries I'm going to be doing on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I was absolutely mad on He-Man when I was very young, and I managed to get hold of, at one stage, after it had stopped being shown on British telly, on ITV, a second-hand video, which I was terribly pleased with at the time, of two episodes. This one, and another one that is quite close to it in the running and production order, Creatures from the Tar Swamp. And this one was the first on the video here, Like Father, Like Daughter, or as it was called on the video packaging, The Army of Robots, which is a slightly less interesting, but perhaps in other ways equally apt title for this particular episode. And I thought the first two commentaries I would do on He-Man should be on the two episodes from the video, the two episodes I've seen quite a lot over the years and know quite well. The reason being that I think they were good choices to put on a video release. There are certainly other episodes that I don't think I would have engaged with so much when I got hold of the second-hand video and would have reminded me of the show so favourably as these two did, Like Father, Like Daughter and Creatures from the Tar Swamp. And so, yeah, for that reason, they're definitely worth a commentary each, and that's what I'm doing, as you may have noticed by now. The reason I think this one is a good episode to start with, or come back to He-Man with after a few years, is it introduces, it doesn't really mean to introduce, but it does nonetheless, all the main characters quite well. This establishing scene with the laser lasso in the courtyard at the Royal Palace, it tells you or reminds you of everything you want to know or need to know about Prince Adam, Man-at-Arms, Orko, Teela, King Randor, and the two father-child relationships there between Man-at-Arms and Teela, and Adam and King Randor. You don't always get reminded of those so starkly, so effectively at the beginning of each episode. Even though Diamond Ray of Disappearance is definitely the first episode proper, and you should always start a watch through of He-Man with that, coming into the video here, it's not a bad thing to do at all. And I remember being pleased to see here Zoar the Falcon, because I knew, excellent, more characters I remember, the Sorceress coming in, and it leads to this bit that sums up the Adam and Randor thing, and Teela joining in quite nicely. Why can't Prince Adam be interested in anything other than fun, fun, fun? I wish he would, said King Randor there. Oh, how little you know, King Randor. And I was also very pleased to see in this bit Cringer is around for the transformation sequence, because it absolutely used to annoy me no end when I was little, when he turned into He-Man and Battle Cat wasn't there. I found that extremely disappointing, although in some episodes I'm quite prepared to admit now it is the right thing and it is appropriate, and Battle Cat wouldn't really fit into the episode at all. But I didn't want an episode on this tape of two episodes that I thought were going to be the only episodes I'd ever be able to see again, not to have Battle Cat. Fortunately, they both do. Sometimes I used to worry while watching these episodes. Now, did I misremember about Zoar the Falcon and the Sorceress actually being the same entity? Because, as you can read in any analysis of the origins of He-Man, the series Bible, the different stages it went through before making it onto screen. Zoar and the Sorceress weren't originally intended to be the same entity at all, and indeed in some mini-comics and colouring books and things you might see them as not the same entity. But I'd always remembered that in the cartoon the Sorceress transformed into the Falcon, and it struck me after watching the video of this a few times, you don't actually see that happen on the screen. You see Zoar the Falcon coming to the palace, and as Adam says, that means the Sorceress wants to see us, and here they are, they go to see the Sorceress. But it could just be, in that case, that Zoar is the Sorceress's messenger, pet, if you will. And I thought, is that true? Have I misremembered that you used to see her turning back and forth from bird to woman on screen? Unfortunately, when I got the DVDs in 2005, there was plenty of the Sorceress turning into and back from Zoar, which told me, phew, I hadn't misremembered that at all. But then I did realise at some stage it is actually confirmed in the opening sequence, which was on the video all the time, of course. Our friend's the Sorceress, and she's turning from the bird into the woman. So I needn't have worried at all, and the evidence was there all the time. But yeah, it is one of those things that, obviously, Filmation have made it so at some point, and it wasn't originally intended, and you wouldn't be able to read anything about it in the mini-comics that came with the figures, or a lot of background information, basic information that they would have had and been playing around with when planning and making the series. It's quite interesting in that way, He-Man. The end result is a bit of a hodgepodge of different ideas from different stages of developing the whole idea of He-Man, the character, and the world that he was going to inhabit. And that, as I will say when I do a couple of commentaries for some episodes from the newer He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series, the 2002 to 2004 version. That series benefits from knowing all the material and how to weave it all in together effectively, rather than winging it, which the original Filmation series is forced to do, partly because there's lots of source material that they're not quite sure how it's all going to fit together, and partly because Mattel were releasing new action figures the whole time and saying, put it in the series, particularly in Season 2. That's obviously put a strain on Filmation at times. So there's that general point made, and I will certainly come back to it in the future when talking about, as I say, the newer series. I always remembered liking Orko, and this episode is rather good for him. The next episode on the video, Creatures from the Tar Swamp, is better as a character piece for Orko, but he's popping in and out of scenes, appearing, disappearing, mucking about with a lasso here, and he's used quite well in this episode, so I was very pleased with that. And I've been reminded of that now, because here he is helping Teela test the lasso, and playing an important part in the episode, even though it's not a deep Orko character piece like Creatures from the Tar Swamp. I was also pleased to see in this episode Trapjaw and Beastman, who, to me, were Skeletor's two main henchmen, as well as Merman, and that's very much reinforced by the opening sequence, the evil forces of Skeletor, and I shall talk about my feelings about that opening sequence at the beginning of the next commentary. Because there they are, the three of them, pictured there as the evil forces of Skeletor. So I was glad to see Trapjaw and Beastman here, and then in Creatures from the Tar Swamp, it was Beastman and Evil Lyn, and I thought, oh good, I want to see Evil Lyn, definitely a very important character, I'm glad she's on the tape. But I was quite disappointed that in neither episode did Merman appear. And that is a bit of an omission on the tape. Creatures from the Tar Swamp and Like Father, Like Daughter are two very good episodes of He-Man to have if you are going to have two forever and no others. But that is a glaring omission. No Merman at all. So, thank goodness for the DVD releases later on. One of the things I always remember when watching this episode is that when we found the 2002 series on ITV and picked it up to see what it was like, I then dug out the videotape with these two episodes on, because of course it made me want to see the old one, the proper one, that I used to love so much. And when we were sitting watching this, having watched some episodes of the new series, the newer series, the 21st Century series, my mum said, well, this is so much better that he's turning into He-Man already, and we're only a few minutes into the episode. We don't want to see Adam hanging around for a whole episode not being He-Man, like we've been seeing in the new series. And I was inclined to agree with my mum about that. Although, actually, when you watch both series as a whole, there are episodes in this original series that have quite a lot of Prince Adam and make good use of Prince Adam as a character, and not a lot of He-Man. Have limited use of He-Man, just like in the newer series. There are several episodes with a lot of He-Man and not a lot of Prince Adam. So it's not really a big difference between the two series, but it was rather striking. Having watched a couple of newer episodes, Orko's Garden and Buzz-Off's Pride, we'd certainly watched at that point, it was rather striking that, yes, hooray, he's getting on with He-Man straight away here. And I always notice that the next episode, Creatures from the Tar Swamp, does have more Adam than this episode does, but again, more He-Man, and as much He-Man as you want and need from an episode. I think it is true to say as a general point that the newer series does make more extensive use of Adam as a character altogether than this series, and that He-Man and Prince Adam are more different from each other in some ways in the newer series. And indeed, I've been talking here about Prince Adam and He-Man as two different people, and I do want to say at some point in one of these commentaries, and I've got a place earmarked to do it, I think it's going to be with the greatest show on Eternia when I do a commentary on that. Yes, it is, that they are actually the same person, and people do tend to talk about them and talk to them and think of them too much as two different characters, people who are in on The Secret. But, there are differences between them, certainly artistically, if not emotionally, and they're certainly worth pointing out and analysing as a big part of the show. And this is the bit of this episode where I really started to think, yes, now it's getting good, exciting, action-packed. He-Man and Battle Cat both using some super strength there to destroy these serpentoids. I enjoyed that sequence very much. And there's the bit where Trapjaw says, just you wait, He-Man, the fun has just begun. And I think, oh good, because these episodes always used to be over much quicker than I wanted. Hopefully we've only just begun. But no, we're certainly 2/3 of the way through the episode now. But there we are. What more can you expect from an 80s standard toy commercial 20-minute cartoon? Nothing. And that's what I think is so special about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. it obviously is your standard 80s 20-minute toy commercial cartoon, but it makes so much of it. It does so much great characterization, creates this wonderful world of Eternia, so tangible, sparks so much off in the imagination of the viewers, and stays with us all for so long in so many ways. I think it's far, far greater than the sum of its parts, its purposes and its intentions, original intention, to sell toys for Mattel, He-Man and the Master of the Universe, and I think it deserves a lot of love and respect for that. And indeed it gets a lot of love and respect for that, and rightly so, and that's why I'm doing these few commentaries about it. I appreciated this line being in it, where He-Man throws the rock at the big army of robots group there. This reminds me of a game my mother told me about. It was called Bowling. And that reminded me, of course, oh yes, his mother is from Earth. Queen Marlena is from Earth. And that's something I haven't misremembered either. The Sorceress and Zoa are the same being, the same entity, and Queen Marlena is from Earth. And that was something else I noticed about this episode. Queen Marlena isn't in it. She's kind of like Merman, a character I was hoping to see here and didn't. But unlike Merman, Queen Marlena is in the next episode, Creatures from the Tar Swamp, so I found it satisfying that she was there on the tape at all. She is, it's fair to say, quite underused in this series, Queen Marlena, and one of the episodes I'm going to commentate on, The Rainbow Warrior, is a deliberate attempt to rectify that, to give Queen Marlena her own episode and do something very interesting with her. And as I'll say on that commentary, I think it's a pretty successful attempt at that. So it's not surprising if someone is missed out of a big group establishing character situation, like at the beginning of this episode, Queen Marlena is the one who isn't there. But yeah, you can see her elsewhere, and occasionally they do make good use of her, but yeah, the writer who wanted to create the Rainbow Warrior as an episode to rectify that and do something good with Queen Marlena, I think that was a very good decision. Because, yeah, she is underused. And I noticed when I was watching the 2002 series through quite recently that it is a phenomenon that continues in that series. Queen Marlena, again, they don't really know what to do with her apart from having her saying mom stuff occasionally. But she's a character that, whatever version of He-Man gets made, they seem to find quite hard to sustain. Which is a bit of a shame in some ways. I could tell at this point, oh yeah, we're getting to the denouement. Return, Trapjaw and Beastman to Snake Mountain, find Man-at-Arms, and that'll be that. One thing you don't see in these two episodes is Skeletor using a lot of magic, sorcery, directly on the screen, and I suppose when he returns Trapjaw and Beastman by magic there, that's one of the main times when he does it. But I didn't realise quite how powerful a sorcerer Skeletor was supposed to be from watching these two episodes. And when I used to watch the movie, I thought, oh, Skeletor uses more magic in this Masters of the Universe movie than I'm used to seeing. But of course I was quite wrong about that. When I got the DVDs, I saw, oh yes, Skeletor does, when he's written properly anyway, use magic a lot. And obviously, if he's going to be in charge of all these creatures who are quite powerful in themselves, particularly someone like Evil Lyn, who's a very powerful magician, of course he's going to have to be the most powerful magician of them all, isn't he? So yeah, it wouldn't make sense if Skeletor didn't have magic powers. But, of course, he does. I like that bit. when I was rewatching this, where He-Man throws the bomb into the air and it explodes. Other superheroes who are slightly more completely invulnerable might have eaten the bomb at that stage. But no, He-Man, using his strength there to chuck it up in the air where it explodes harmlessly. Great stuff. And this is a nice callback at the end. The sorceress has told Adam earlier, things aren't always what they seem. He-Man has remembered that, because of course Adam and He-Man are the same person, and I shouldn't talk about them as different people, when he realises the Serpentoids are actually robots. And he uses the line quite nicely to Teela at the end there. Teela's like, oh, you wouldn't be interested. You're never interested in anything serious. And Adam's like, oh, I don't know, Teela. Things aren't always what they seem. And then he gives us a nice wink. Nice little breaking of the fourth wall slightly at the end there. I think that works very well. And I was quite happy to see that was all they did with Adam in the form of Adam in this episode. And they didn't have that little moral segment there on the video release of this that is on the DVD, so I can't actually remember what Teela said there. So there we go. There's the end of that commentary. A lot of general points about He-Man and some specific points about this episode, like father, like daughter. And I hope you'll join me again next time for a commentary on the second episode from that video, the second in this pair that I always think of as a pair, Creatures from the Tar Swamp.